Hey everybody, it's your friends Rob and Butcher Rob here to talk about something of vital importance. Rob, I heard you're feeling under the weather, buddy. Tell me about it.
Well, I'm feeling a malaise. I've got low energy, night sweats. It's the IDIC epidemic, Butch.
Oh no, I don't know how to describe the IDIC epidemic other than that's what you get for hanging around with copper-blooded people,
I think
nickel-blooded people.
I think if you're exposed to a MacGuffin, you might catch it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Hey, it's your friends here at the CineMcCollough podcast bringing you another episode of Is That a Trek in Your Pocket? This week's Trek in our pocket is the 38th novel on the list, Jean Lorrah's The IDIC Epidemic from 1988, February of 88, so our senior year of high school. Very exciting.
Yeah.
I own this book. I remember this book. But it's just like a lot of my other books. I guess they've been sitting in a box in the garage for 35 years in some cases. So maybe they don't look read anymore because they've just been sitting on a shelf for so long. Or maybe I never read it. I don't know. April of 88, it's February of 88. It's possible I bought it and didn't read it. I know I bought it because I have it in my collection, but I don't remember reading it. So.
Which I can't imagine you would have bought a new Star Trek novel and not read it.
That's fair. In high school, that's probably true. I guess once we got to college, I didn't read any of my stuff I was supposed to read for class half the time. So, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Butch. I was going to say, I had 2 copies in this one. I wrote, because I used to always write on the inside, right? I put, this is my 45th Star Trek novel, 3/11/88, my birthday present from my friend Pete.
Oh, nice. So, that's exciting. Yeah, so, all right, so let's see. So what else do we know? It's 278 pages. It's written, as I said, by Jean Lorrah. This is, it's a sequel, that's right. It's her second of 2 TOS novels that she wrote. This one is the sequel to the first one, the Vulcan Academy Murders, which, by the way, I is the last one. As soon as it's on the way in the mail. As soon as I get it, I will have all 50 of the ones on our list. So if we end up rolling that one, it'll be A, coincidental, B, providential, because we'll just talked about this one, and C, I'll get it before it's time to read it. So that's good. She also, by the way, did you know this? I didn't know this. She submitted a script for the original series that did not get accepted. It was called Kathy with an I. And so she submitted a script. So she's old enough to have submitted a script before 1969. And wrote this in 88. So that would have been, there's probably 20 years between her submitting a script and getting, her second novel published, I guess. Although Vulcan Academy Murders is not much earlier than this on the list, if I'm not mistaken. So
it was a bestseller. I remember that one. That's a great Star Trek title for if you're a Star Trek fan, starved for a story, and you see the Vulcan Academy Murders, you're shelling out your $350.
It was an orangutan, I'm sure. Spoilers. So actually that one was number 20, so it was quite a ways before this one. There was a few years between. Jean Lorrah still around, I think. I don't remember writing down that she was no longer with us, although if she was writing stuff in the late 60s, maybe she's not. I guess, she'd be 70 something or whatever. So, and it's interesting because, like I said, it's a sequel to one we haven't read, so we're going to pick up a story that doesn't take place much longer after that one. It seems like they're coming back from Vulcan after the end of that novel, and they pick up right where they left off. So,
and I was trying to place where in the original 5-year mission this would have kind of taken place.
Well, I'm glad you asked because there's a couple hints, I think. One of them is that they said that, what was it? They said that they referenced Journey to Babel, obviously, because we meet Spock's parents in Journey to Babel. At least Kirk does. And meet Spock's parents then. And then we see them again in this, so we know it's after that. But then there was another episode that they reference Oh yeah, they reference Balance of Terror because they say that the Enterprise had just recently, within the last year, it first encountered a Romulan vessel. So that was a early mid first season episode, and Journey to Babel is a early to mid second season episode. So this one presumably not long after that one. So if it's a year after that, it's probably all about somewhere season 2, if we were going to fit in the timeline.
Visiting her eyelid and been zapped by a pancake. And,
all of the above, yes. Zapped by a pancake, and the pancake was zapped by McCoy. So that's what you get, pancake. Stay in your lane, pancake. All right. So their mission, by the way, they're shuttling Vulcans to and fro, including Spock's parents. They're taken to Cordan, which we've heard, you Vulcan! So we've heard of Cordan. Then they get called back to Vulcan to pick up some more scientists and doctors and take him to Nissus to combat a plague that is killing and rapidly mutating at an important social and scientific planet. It's a planet of galactic peace. No, I'm sorry. That's not true. It sounds like the planet of galactic peace, but that of course is Nimbus 2 or Nimbus 3. I can't remember which one. From Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, the greatest of all the Star Trek movies, as you recall, of course.
Yep.
That's the El Capitan of Star Trek movies, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah.
I remember reading. I remember that I had read the Vulcan Academy Murders and liked it, and I remembered that I had read this book and liked it, although I didn't remember the stories of either. Then I was surprised today. I was kind of Butchipedia-ing, and I was surprised to see that the Vulcan Academy Murders shows up on some worst Star Trek novels ever list.
Wow. And yeah, is that the same list that had Spock Must Die as one of the best ones? Because we don't trust that list.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about some of these lists we come across, but I think sometimes they're made by people that got assigned something and are faking their research. But yeah,
it's AI.
I was excited when the DICE selected this one for us, and I enjoyed reading it.
Absolutely, it's interesting. It's one of those rare stories where it happened in the original series. It also happened in the Next Generation a couple times, where the villain is a disease, right? It's the whole scientific community against a disease. Normally, it's just Dr. McCoy against a disease in his laboratory with test tubes, but in this case, they bring in all the scientists of the Federation from all the different races, and it turns out that's providential and also problematic. So it's interesting that the villain is a disease. It's especially interesting that because we just went through a pandemic, and so so it's it mutates in the hybrid children of multiple planetary races. And we get to see some villain. I guess the villains could also be some of the Orions are some of the villains, right? And also a sect of xenophobic Vulcans are in this, and they probably could be considered villains too.
And so that's all interesting and has you going, I wonder where this is going to head. And then also we've talked before, Butch, about sometimes authors, we've read some novels where they're more concerned about characters that they made up than the character in love, and that can be a tricky balance. Navigate. Now here we're reading a sequel to a book we haven't read.
Yeah, for sure, and that is weird. Because I'm assuming we if we'd read that one first, we would know some of these characters better than we do.
But the author is writing it knowing full well that a lot of people reading it will not be familiar with the first book, right? They're the new Star Trek novels, so it. It's kind of ambitious to write a book with there are a number of characters in this book that are not from the original. And I think the most part pulls it off in getting us to know who they are and understand that within the confines of 280 pages. So it was kind of impressive.
I think so, and we have experienced a sequel book already on our read through in the first 10. Except we read them in the correct order, right? So it was My Enemy, My Ally, then The Romulan Way. That's the correct order for that. But there was not a lot. It was while it was a sequel and they referenced the earlier story, there was only like guest appearances, short guest appearances of characters from the first one and references to it. We didn't spend a lot of time with characters from the first novel, My Enemy, My Ally, until the end of the novel, right? That's
well, and actually, before we started reaching in our pocket to feel around what was in there, we had another sequel. So I was looking for Omni in this book.
Oh yes, of course. I'm saying in our pocket treks, yeah, but of course we had the sequel of the Phoenix duology in our Bantam journey, right? So that's correct. Is it okay that I've had therapy to put that out of my head a little bit? So,
all right, I'm gonna.
Every time I see leather underwear, I'm always get a chill of that. I can't help it. So yeah, but you're right. They introduce a lot of characters in this, and some of these characters they spend a lot of time with. Maybe the character that gets the most pages in this book is a Klingon named Corsal, right? Him and his kids. I'm thinking Paul Giamatti in the Klingon makeup for this character. I mean, it's a big character, so you got to get a name. And I just saw the end of Cinderella Man today, which has Paul Giamatti in it. And I'm thinking, okay, I can see that. Somebody who's not doesn't look like a military guy, right? But he's a Klingon, and so
maybe I'll go Steve Buscemi.
I think that would work absolutely, for sure. And so he has two sons, Kevin and Carl. They're multiracial because he had a wife, Corsal, who we hear about, we don't meet. Although I think we might get a communicator or something like that from her. She's now a Commodore in Starfleet. So that broke up their marriage. She wanted to go to Starfleet. He wanted to just be an engineer on a planet. The two shall never meet. And so she left, and he got the kids and is raising them to be not Klingons, which is fun.
Yeah. And you can tell they're Klingons because they have K names. Of course, if they'd have had twins, we would have had Kit and Caboodle, probably.
Kevin and Carl, that's right. So we also have a Vulcan daughter and mom on this, although the daughter's adopted, Tapina and Takar. I don't know who's supposed to play Takar, but I had a young Christina Ricci playing Tapina. She's like right at the age of womanhood. They literally pronounce her old enough to bleed something. So I don't know exactly what the Vulcan term of that is, but it's essentially you're ready to get married off, and she is ready to launch into it right there. I mean, it's like an LDS family or something like that. They're just wasting no time getting her married off.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I have a crush on Christina Ricci from back in the day. I would offer as a first alternate maybe young Juliette Lewis.
Yeah, I'm sure, absolutely. I think that works too. We're just curious what the ears would look like on both of them. It's fine. And then we also have the dissident Vulcans. Sendet is the younger one, and Satat is the older one. I went with Cillian Murphy and Liam Neeson for them.
I like those are.
Yeah. Cillian Murphy is just right on the tip of everybody's tongue right now because of Oppenheimer. I'm sorry, Barbieheimer.
Have you seen that movie yet?
I've not seen it yet. No.
I haven't either. But
my daughter went and saw the double feature over the last weekend, which seems inexplicable, but that's what the thing was. So they went and saw Barbie, and then they went to Applebee's, and then they went and saw Oppenheimer. It's just so weird. But so apparently a lot of people did it. It's fun because it's the kind of thing where those two movies have nothing in common, but they were both huge movies, and they both benefited from the other one being out because it was a whole thing, right? So,
but that reminds me, and I know I've told this story before, but when right before basic training, and we went to Full Metal Jacket, and then snuck in Beverly Hills Cop 2, and that was too much of a tonal shift.
I think so. You just need to go to Applebee's in between. That's all. Some curly fries is the answer to that, and high fructose corn syrup.
5, with some wings.
There you go. See, I'm thinking, all right, and then okay, the one. If you're going to ask me what character did we not need in this novel, who do you think I'm gonna say? So I think this character was introduced in the last novel. suddenly we get some random space pirate, half human, half Orion, Bo Deaver guy.
He was so bad I didn't even write him in my.
I know. Why was he there? I don't know. Seth Rogen. I wrote down to Seth Rogen playing him. I don't know if Seth Rogen could do whatever the fuck that accent was. But that character did not need to be there. Although it's like I'm assuming that Topina is going to end up with him at the end. If she ever wrote a third novel, we were going to get to see them picking out China patterns and all that stuff. And so thank God it didn't happen. So yeah.
I don't know. It felt like the author was trying to set up maybe a third novel a little bit.
Yeah. And also ripped from today's headlines, you know who else we get a short introduction to in this book? It's an origin story for Dr. Mabenga. And that's how Dr. Mabenga got aboard the Enterprise.
What was his name? Jeff or something?
Jeffrey with a G-E-O. Jeffrey Mabenga. Although in the current series, here's the thing though. I worked out the math on this. In the current series, Mabenga is Joseph Mabenga, right? In this Strange New Worlds. But the thing is, Joseph Mabenga is played by an actor who's 39 years old, and Booker Bradshaw, who played him 8 years later on the series, was 24 when he played him. So, my theory is this Mabenga is the Mabenga we meet in the TOS series, and Joseph, the one we meet in Strange New Worlds, is his dad. That's my theory. I'm going with it. That explains our different names and explains why Babs is way older than Booker Bradshaw when he played him 8 years afterwards and stuff like that.
And it explains why I can understand him in one series and not in the other.
Right, exactly. So it explains why one has an accent and the other doesn't, because grew up in a Starfleet instead of wherever Mabenga grew up and stuff. I think that is a great idea. I came up with that while I was in Ashland this weekend, and so that was my creativity for the weekend, and so that's kind of interesting. I definitely got echoes to 3 novels or 3 episodes of the original series. The obvious one is Journey to Babel, right?
Yes.
Lots of different species all working together and stuff like that. The second one was Miri, because again they're fighting against time to stop the disease, right? They're laboratory work. Miri's the one where we get the most laboratory work and the threat of doom and annihilation and stuff like that if they don't get it. There were other ones in the original series, but Miri was the one that stuck out to me. And then I did Is There in Truth No Beauty also, and I don't know why I did that.
Probably because of the IDIC.
Yes, thank you. The IDIC, of course. Yeah, that was the episode that introduced that, because Roddenberry wanted to sell some trinkets. So,
and I think it's a cool philosophy that
I do.
If it has a commercial, genesis, if you will.
Yeah.
It fits.
Yeah. So tell us about what does it mean? What does it stand for and all that stuff?
What's that?
What does it stand for and all that stuff?
Infinite diversity and infinite combinations.
Yeah. So yeah.
Doing their DEI.
Yeah. From the things that make us different together make us strong.
And if you remember your Savage Curtain, Surac's quote, "I'm pleased to see that we have differences. May we both be stronger together than separate," or whatever that quote is.
And if I can get political for a minute, at the time when the TV series came out, and at least for the run-up for that, I think we're right around the era in 1967, which is a little bit before Savage Curtain, obviously. But Is There in Truth No Beauty, because that was season 3. But that's the era where we're just starting to get rid of what they call miscegenation laws. Miscegenation is the term for people from different races ought not have children together. Right. We got to keep the race purity thing. And so I think Roddenberry is leaning hard into, hell no. Nope.
It's interesting, Butch, is not 1 hour ago, my wife was watching some show on, I don't know if she was watching Netflix or Amazon Prime, but it was a documentary about gypsies in Europe.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the name of it was, but the gypsies were saying, we get married very young, teens, because we have to keep the race pure. Yeah. We don't want any gypsies in the group. That's
a lot of as they say.
but we want to keep the race pure.
Yeah.
So
that is an interesting old school way of thinking, right? I mean, it's like, bloodlines and stuff like that. And sci-fi it's interesting. Science fiction as a genre plays a lot with that, right? Star Trek, of course, is going with the combinations thing, but Dune is very much like keeping bloodlines and stuff like that, and manufacturing the correct bloodlines to reach the Kwisatz Haderach and stuff like that. So sci-fi really does lean into the idea in both directions of bloodlines and stuff like that. So, but what we know is that Vulcans generally, whether it was intended that way, some Vulcans took it to mean, yeah, let's marry some Orions and let's marry some other peoples, and we'll get on this. And some other Vulcans apparently who didn't leave with the Romulans, nonetheless, are kind of like, yeah, we don't like what you're doing, and we would like to leave also. Is there another planet? Is that Remus planet somewhere around? Because we could go to that one. Yeah.
What I think is interesting about science fiction talking about this kind of stuff is the planets are always, kind of unified. So Klingons would be a race.
Yeah.
Romulans would be a race. Andorians would be a race.
Right.
And it does kind of show in a subtle way that, hey, all the petty national differences and ethnic differences within our own species are really kind of silly.
Yeah.
By showing the alien races as it's never almost never, the Romulans from the northern hemisphere don't like the Romulans from the southern hemisphere.
That's right. Irish and the Scotch, right? Exactly. I still remember the first time I saw on Star Trek: The Next Generation, there was an episode called the Pegasus, where they meet up with a Romulan warbird whose captain is a black Romulan. And I was like, all right, that's new. I don't see any reason we can't do that, right? I mean, because they're whole planets, right? So there's a reason to think maybe they would have skin tone differences like we would and stuff like that. I don't know. It's always an interesting idea that, that we tend to think of, when we were watching the original series, all the Klingons looked alike and all the Romulans looked alike and all the Vulcans looked alike and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see kind of, maybe they don't even dress differently. I mean, it's a one world fashion at those places. It's crazy. But I guess in the cases of we're meeting their militaries, and so they have literal uniforms in that case. So, but it's fun. So here's the thing about it. Speaking of Klingons in this novel, I was surprised. Not only do we meet and find a hero in the Klingon that's on here. He's not a military guy, but then we meet actual military Klingons, and they're kind of not assholes either. It's interesting. Kef of the Star Blaster shows up, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll help," and you're like, "What?" So that's cool.
They also introduced an interesting idea, which I had never really thought of, but it's true, where they said, "Hey, when you meet Klingons, Kirk, you're meeting military Klingons.
Yeah.
You're not meeting the everyday, John Q. Klingon off the street."
Yeah.
Right.
That is interesting,
so, and that is an interesting thing, because when we meet the races like the Romulans and the Klingons in the show, we are only meeting the crews of their military. So that was an interesting point. I was like, I hadn't thought of that.
That is, and I thought that was something that there's a couple ideas here which I thought there were points in the story, we'll get to it, where I was like, they're spending too much time on this, or this is feeling a little repetitive. But some of the ideas that they touch on, and they explore a little bit, I thought were interesting, and so I generally found that it was not hard to make it through this novel. I thought so. That was good. But go ahead.
We've had some novels that were hard to get through, so
yeah,
I'm enjoying any kind of a novel where I'm excited to read the next chapter and keep it going and not dreading
it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Sometimes it's easier to pick that novel up and read another chapter. This is especially helpful because there's 48 chapters in a 275-page book, which means they're snappy.
And there wasn't a lot of leaning on the keyboard names. little pyramids with antenna eyeball stuff that I couldn't pronounce.
Yeah, Tapina is about the hardest name we had in this whole thing, right? It's like, I'm looking at you, Diane Duane. I'm looking at you. That's right.
I was like, Carl, I can get on board with Carl and Kevin.
That's right. All right, shall we launch into this thing then? Unless you want to talk about anything else, I guess we could. The one other thing I should say is that we get a little bit of something to do with for every character, although not really Sulu and Chapel. For a medical episode, Chapel's not doing much. I didn't think. She did more in the last novel than she did in this one. Sulu really doesn't get much love at all, and I was actually surprised. I was like, at first I thought, well, Chekhov shouldn't be in this novel. But then I go, no, it's after Journey to Babel, so he should be in this novel, right? Because season 2. So it all fits. But they don't do much. But you know who does do a lot? Sarek does a lot. We see Sarek playing the harp. We see Sarek flying a hover car. We see Sarek frickin' swimming. Did anybody have that on their bingo card? I'm sorry, bingo card's a tough sell. But did anybody have Sarek swims on their bingo card? I don't think so.
I did not, but I will say I speak for most Star Trek fans, and I'm saying yes, we want more Sarek. We want to know more about this guy.
I got no problem. I like. It's been long enough since they reconciled that he's like, I'm trying new things, And yes, Amanda taught me how to swim, and so that's great. So I think that's fun. All right, so let's do this, if we will. All right, so as it always seems to happen, I bet if we count up the 50 novels and say how many of them start off with characters other than our heroes in chapter 1 and then go to our heroes in chapter 2, I think they all do pretty close, right?
Yeah.
And this is no different. We start off at the Nissus Council, and we meet characters like Korsal, the Klingon, Borth, the Orion, Keski, who's an Andorian, and Tosan, who's a Vulcan, and they're talking about a disease spreading and it's killing on this planet, which is the ideal of lots of races working together, and so then one of them, Lem Noran, I guess they do dig in deep. I looked all these races up. They've used all these races in Star Trek novels at least, and probably in different TV series, and a lot of them. Journey to Babel, they assigned a lot of those rando, like the little gold guys. They're a race. They've assigned them a race and stuff like that. But none of them that we see in this one are the gold guys. It's like, picking fruit cubes off the table. But one of them goes.
Would that be race assigned at birth? Is that what would be in their chart?
Well, that's a good question. I think some of them don't turn gold until they're like 10. So it's like a deer. The deer has spots until they get older, and then they don't have spots anymore. I think the Dalmatian puppies don't have spots until they're older. So I think the gold guys might be that, right? It's like, and the weird thing is they're like really tall until they're older, and then they get really short. It's a whole thing. So if I ever write a Star Trek novel, that's what I'm writing it about: fruit cubes and short gold guys. So all right, so here's the thing: one of those guys, the Lemnorian, goes crazy and attacks the Klingon, and then he dies. Yeah, and the most important thing we learn is that Korsal is not a doctor, but he is a Klingon. He's on the council, and it turns out Klingons are immune to this disease, and that's going to be an important detail. So they do a pretty good job of setting up giving us the setting, I guess, and introducing us to characters that we're going to spend way more time with than any of our heroes. So we just don't know that yet.
Yeah, the premise to me felt like the start of an episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe in the execution of it, but starting off like, hey, there's this planet that's kind of cool. There's a plague we don't understand, and and commercial.
And commercial. When they come back, Kirk and the Enterprise are shuttling the Vulcan dissidents, the followers of Tevet. We don't know who Tevet is. We don't know who these people are. We just know that they just recently caused trouble on Vulcan, and so they're taking them to some new colony that they're going to go live on.
And to Ruby Ridge, hey,
brother. That was hilarious. Not gonna lie. All right. So it turns out those dissidents are down playing a little rough in the gymnasium. I wrote down to the debt. but I'm not sure if that was true. They're playing with Lurpas in the gym, and Kirk is not having it. Kirk goes down there. He's like, "Look, you were told you can only be on the ship if you don't interfere." And they're like, "Who's interfering with ship operations? We're just killing each other down here."
We're fighting, that's all.
Yeah. And he's like, Kirk's like, "Damn it, Newman! Curse is foiled again." So yeah, so you have to leave him alone. It's fine. And then we learned there's several steps that have to happen here. We learned that Sarek and Amanda are on board, and they're going to take him and drop him at Coriolanus. I thought it was Corridan, but it's Coriolanus is what it is. Corridan would have been more fun.
In there early.
Yeah. And so, but now they got, and then they got to drop off at Colony 9, the dissidents off. But then they get the new orders, got to go back to Vulcan, pick up some doctors, and then head to Nissus, and then you can go to Coriolanus. So they're going to be on board for a little bit while longer. And so then there's, go ahead.
None of that had to be in there. That was a lot of wasted energy.
Yeah, I think they're just kind of like saying change of plans. They could have just said change of plans. But then we get a cute scene where Spock goes to visit his mom, and he's like, it's going to take a little longer, approximately 6 days. And she says, "Don't you mean 6.137 days or something?" He's like, "Well, I was being brief, but it's actually 6.252." and they kind of josh back and forth, which is very Journey to Babel, where she's like, it's okay to like do, like non-Vulcan things too. And he's like, yeah, whatever.
I thought the author gave Amanda a voice that was in keeping with what we've seen of her in the movies and the television. So
yeah, I thought so too.
Believable Amanda to me.
Yep. And there's a brief recall of some viruses, deadly viruses in the past they've dealt with. They specifically call it the Psi 2000 virus. I guess that is from the Naked Time. Where there's scientists all working there, and then somebody makes a mistake, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, everybody's dead because one guy took his glove off to scratch his nose. Come on, man, Joe Tormolen, you're better than that, man. Well, you were better than that. Now you're dead.
You're doing that throughout this whole book. I mean, someone's always touching their face, rubbing their forehead.
Yeah, and so yeah, and then we learned a little bit more about Nissus, that it's where experts from throughout the Federation go, and in fact beyond the Federation, because there's non-Federation races there. The Orions and the Klingons are not part of the Federation, but they are part of the Workshare program there and stuff like that. And we don't really know much about that, but I think we know we're going to learn more about that, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good setup, I think. And then we have a lot of characters we have to get to know, because we've heard about already these two famous scientists from Vulcan. One is a Vulcan, Sorel. He's actually a healer, they call him. And then the other is Daniel Corrigan. It turns out I think we met both of them in the last novel, and now we're re-meeting them here for the first time in our case. And they get their orders to go. They're on Vulcan when they get their orders. Enterprise is going to come pick you up. You got to go to Nissus. That's from Admiral Bright, who I don't think comes off as the asshole admiral that admirals usually come off as, but he did not come off as an asshole. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then we learned that Corrigan is married to a Vulcan woman, Tamir, and they're thinking about having kids. So love is in the air.
And if I remember, because I feel like I read the Vulcan Academy Murders like in 2020. And if I'm not getting it mixed up with another book, I think they talked a little bit in that book about how, Spock was the first Vulcan human, whatever.
Yeah.
And they had to do that kind of in the laboratory a little bit.
Yep.
And work out some of the logistics of the whole thing. So, and now it's interesting because we have another human and Vulcan marriage couple. And Spock's kind of a famous case in that.
Yeah, and he's already a bit of a legend, which is interesting. So that's true. So now we're going to jump back. It's chapter 5. We're going to jump back to Nissus, where we meet up with Korsal the Klingon again, and he's working with Therian, who's an Andorian, and they're tired, and everybody's tired. there's a lot of work to do on this planet, and they have a lot of people dying, so the work is being spread too thinly, right? They need help. There's not enough people to go around and all this stuff. There's a new strain of the disease. It's the deadliest yet, and it's a new mutation. They're calculating factors, and there's this fun part where they're like, yeah, it's going to take the computer a few days to do this because we're overloaded the computer. I was like, yeah, we live in a world now where no matter what you tell the internet to do, it does it instantaneously. It just doesn't. You can tell this is a time before the internet because none of that makes sense anymore. Why would it take the computer 2 days to do anything? You ask the internet to do something, and it gives you a million answers in a millisecond. Because
it gives you a million shitty answers.
Well, that's true. It's in fairness, that's true. I will give you that.
I think also it said in the preface that there isn't dial-up. I don't know if you read that, Butch. So yeah. So I think that might have been part of it.
Yeah, so that's good. That's pretty fun. And anyway, so the long and the short of it is, Therian sees something on a computer screen, goes crazy, and attacks Corsel, and then dies during the fight. But probably of the disease. And you're like, so he's like, well, did he see something? Was it the disease that made him go crazy, or was it something that he saw on the screen that made him go crazy? Because he was looking at stuff about the mixed race kids on the screen when he went crazy, and attacked Corsel. So that's a hint. Spoiler, that's a hint we're gonna learn about later. So file that away.
You know what he said? You know what he saw, Butch? He said, "My God, it's full of TikTok stars." And then he just mixing my franchises.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. We can only deal with it so much. So now having just spent a little time with Corsal, we're going to go now meet Tamir and Tapina. Or I'm sorry, I say Tamir, but it's Takar and Tapina, mother and adopted daughter they're from Nissus. She was apparently found. Tapina was found on a Vulcan colony after an attack. They suspect it was the Romulans that attacked this colony, but they don't know that for sure. But that's what they suspect.
What did this remind you of, Butch? With spoiler alerts are fair.
What did this remind me of? I don't know. What should it remind me of?
It reminded me of Savik, or maybe,
Oh, yes, that's her backstory. Yes, exactly. Is that too? And because it's also sort of the backstory for
Tasha.
Yeah, Tasha right? Yar, of course. Right, exactly. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But I was like, I didn't think he was going to be referencing the Next Generation one. But you did. You referenced. Referenced Savik, who kind of had a similar. Rescued from a thing. And of course, it's interesting because what do we know about Savik from the novels that we never learned from the movie is that, she's got a little bit of Romulan blood in her. And I was like, okay. So
we also find or suspect that she might, maybe it was from one of the scripts, but we suspected she might have had a little Spock in her as well.
I think that we get some news on that in a novel or something like that is what I think. So yes. And yeah, that I think it's the novelization of Star Trek 3 where we learn that. That's why she doesn't go to Earth with them or something like that. So, all right. So here's the thing. So we also learned that a little bit about the dissidents, and that they're all about Vulcan bloodline purity. But we'll file that away for now. Kirk is going to talk to the two of them, and they promise he tells them about the disease, and like, look, we're not going to interfere. We understand. It's okay. Don't expect any trouble from us in help trying to save people from this horrible of disease and stuff like that. So, and then McCoy finds out that he's going to beam down to the planet, but Spock is not. And he's like, McCoy says, damn, Spock would be helpful to have down there. I'm doing research. I was like, that's an interesting thing to say. McCoy admitting that he wishes Spock would be there. I know if nothing else, Spock's a good foil for all of his comedic material. So,
absolutely is.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at so far. The setup, they're still on their way to Nissus. They haven't gotten there yet, but they're fixing to get there. How do you think we're doing so far on this, on setting up the story that they're going to tell?
Yeah, so far I'm like, the plague stuff is kind of, it's, I guess, mildly interesting. I'm not like on the edge going, wow, why is this happening? No, it's like it's there to drive the
yeah.
But I don't really so far give a shit about the plague itself and all the descriptions of, wow, it's mutating so fast, and people are day 3 dropping dead, or else it's hours. I mean, they were very specific on the times of the strains.
Yeah.
Strains are changing. So I don't know. I'm so, but so far I do like the characters they're introducing, and the everybody seems on point. So I think we're doing okay so far. Not great. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of a setup. I think it's weird because there's two ways to read this after having gone through a pandemic, which is I'm tired of, I don't need to hear any more about pandemics anymore. And it's also interesting to hear, it's like, having lived through one, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Do they not have like better, you would think they'd have like some sort of a technology that would just like be able to make you immune to being exposed. If you're a doctor, you should probably just be able to push a little button on your belt and have like some sort of a personal force field that keeps you from keeps you bacteriologically free, while you're treating other patients or something. If they haven't invented that, somebody needs to invent that in the 23rd century.
You know what's interesting? We had a number, in the original series, we had a number of episodes where basically the setup was, hey, the Enterprise has to take this medicine to this planet to stop the plague, but we have this other thing to get in the way. And
it's always damn perishable. It's always perishable, right?
We're always running late. We're always arguing with some, bureaucrat about it's time to leave. No, we got to do this. No, we got to go there.
There was that one time, and I don't remember which episode it was. Maybe Conscience of the King. There was this one time where Kirk was like having to take some chili peppers to Captain Jose something or other. Yeah, and I was like, that's the one time it wasn't about medicine that had to get there before it became perishable. So I guess given the option, we got to get Jose's chili peppers. I was like, yeah, we can just keep sticking with medicine that needs to be taken somewhere instead.
I think that stuff a lot better than what they're doing on Strange New Worlds, where every captain's quarters is a full grocery store and a 5-star restaurant.
Well,
I like the meatloaf and the, hey, it would be nice to eat an actual meal. Let's beam down to this planet that Gorn's devastated, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's right, because we're going to get an actual meal down there, because it's a star base, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sailing vessel that doesn't get to eat, fresh food all the time. You're stuck eating.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, Rob, because I think when the original Star Trek was made in the 60s, if you were in the Navy and on ship, you probably didn't eat that great.
Right.
But it's the 2020s now, and I believe I've read that if you're on ship now, you do eat pretty good. Like, it's not just a lot of food, but a variety of food because, spared no expense now in the 2020s is what it is.
But the 12 starships were out on the cutting edges. Yeah. I mean, they were exploring. They were out past where you could get supplies.
That's true. That's why Jose has to get his chili peppers from Kirk, is because you're handing off the chili peppers and stuff. I can't make my paprikash until you bring me my papri.
Yeah, I mean, we got to drop salt off once a year at the various places.
That's my favorite thing. We got to take salt pills. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. And I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, what's a salt pill? And they're like, well, see, sometimes the doctor says I have to take big, huge pills full of salt. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. Doctors don't say that anymore. You need way more salt in your diet, says my doctor. Never. I digress. All right, so listen. So now we're going to get a whole chapter where we get Corso's backstory. Apparently, he's a nearsighted Klingon. Klingons don't have Retinax 5. Apparently, he didn't get Retinax 5 till he moved to Denissus. Now he can see well, which lets him do his job.
That was fun.
Yeah, and stuff like that. But he's a misfit. His brother was a military guy, but he was never in the military, mostly because he was Klingon 4 Eyes.
Well, what we're getting there is actually Klingon culture backstory too.
Yeah, and that is an interesting thing. He talks a little bit about the passive game and then the other game and stuff like that. And there's like 2 different ways that Klingons interact with each other. One of them is the one, and the other is the usual Klingon game, which is fight and for dominance and move up the the command chain by killing your way up there or whatever. And then there's the other way that Klingons interact, which is the passive game. And he's more of a passive game guy.
Getting something of a so-called toxic masculinity vibe about the Klingon culture.
Well,
were you?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to assign anybody in the Star Trek universe with toxic masculinity, Klingons. I mean, faux show, right? It's like, I mean, yeah. To the extent that anybody could be painted with that broad brush, it's those guys. But that's fine. And then we meet his sons, Carl, who's 9, and Kevin, who's 14. Kevin's applied for Starfleet Academy. We're going to learn that later. They're very smart. They're grown up to be clever and curious and all that stuff, and not to just be like Hulk smash everything and things like that.
Were you getting like I don't know about you. I'm reading it. And I was kind of like picturing like this cul-de-sac where they're living there. The neighbor kids are Andorian. The kids are Rigelian.
Vulcan's out there playing with his on wound and there's.
On the street, a wheel and a stick,
dipping pigtails, girls' pigtails in the inkwells. That's what they're doing. That's right.
They're playing Ring Around the Rosie, bonking people. It was so fun. I enjoyed picturing this planet and everybody getting along.
For sure. All right, so let's see. So now we're back on the Enterprise, and we're back with T'Pina for some reason. She's kind of in awe of the legendary Kirk and Spock, but then she meets a dreamy guy named Sendet. I mean, it's so, and it's from her perspective, so it's like preteen or this girl is a woman now. It's a song from the 60s or whatever, and it's like and she's like she's, I don't want to say she's smitten, but I believe she's like hoping that later they might like touch. It's like and later when the time is right, maybe he'll touch my hand.
My wife earlier tonight before she got on this gypsy documentary. As you can see, I have no control over the television in my house. Little house for 200 episodes, etc. And she was watching this. She was sick today, so I came home. She's watching The Tudors. I don't know if you've ever enjoyed that show, Butch.
I took a class on The Tudors in college. So
this is a soap opera version of The Tudors.
Well, Henry VIII is kind of a walking soap opera, so yeah.
And the kid that's playing him, who, I'd like that he's kind of deliciously evil.
Yes.
But if anyone deserves a Hammy Award, it's this actor. I don't know what his name is, but I'm picturing him as Sendet. Handsome, little off, little, intense with his opinions, shall we say.
Hey, it's funny we mentioned The Tudors because, trust me when I tell you, if you think the soap opera version you don't like, I'm going to see the musical version on Friday night at Keller Auditorium. It's called Six, and the Six are the 6 wives of Henry VIII in kind of hip hop musical form. So,
my hands and jump for joy. I'm banging mistress number 3. I don't know. I didn't write.
Oh, that's our second Way to Eden reference. That is great. You are on a Way to Eden kick. An episode that does not get referenced in this, so that's fine. Yeah. All right, so T'Pina is smitten with the dissident. No good's gonna come of that. I think we all know that. We're supposed to be yelling, "Don't do it, baby! Don't do it! Find yourself a nice Spock and let's settle down with a Spock."
But who are you picturing as Sendet?
I think I went with Cillian Murphy as Sendet, which he's probably too old now, but I'm thinking like 28 Days Later, Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, that's right. You did say that.
Yeah. So 28 Days Later, Cillian Murphy, and Batman Begins, Liam Neeson is what I was going for
sure.
All right, so now, okay, this gets weird. So Corsal's an engineer, which means he's working on a dam, and I'm like, wait, they have hydroelectric dams in the 23rd century? The answer is yes, because it's there. So rather than bring a fusion generator down, we'll just have this hydroelectric dam, which seems like a great idea. But now again, this is a planet where people have been dying and people have been getting sick, so people are missing their shifts, so work's not getting done, and so something goes wrong at the dam, and they have a piece of ice break a rotor or some nonsense, and so this Corsall and this woman Torrance are fixing it, and of course it's wet work, and so it involves having to take your shirt off here and there, blah blah blah, and then Torrance's husband shows up, and he doesn't like seeing his wife half naked and wet with a Klingon.
No, he did not.
But they get over that. I wrote down he jelly is what I wrote down. Yeah, he thinks he's Corsall's taking advantage.
But you didn't mention that one of the symptoms of this plague is these people just kind of go berserk suddenly.
Yeah, they will reach out and touch you in the wrong way, and it looks like Torrance's husband's going to do that, but then it's pretty obvious he's just jealous, and that she talks him down. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm effusively sorry. I did not mean to imply. I just saw the two of you, and I went a little bit of made an assumption about and it's interesting that she and presumably her husband are black, because a lot of times the reaction felt like the reaction a white husband might have if his white wife is seemingly getting too close to a black man, and so it's a black man having that reaction to a Klingon with his what a Klingon is kind of like it's kind of like in Starship Troopers when you have the black soldier whipping Rico, right? Because it's like that's it's a good juxtaposition there is what I'm saying. So maybe I'm reading too much into it. It's possible. All right, so then the Tapena and Sendet are just about ready to pick out some China patterns themselves, setting the wedding date and all that stuff. It's like, and then she decides to get to know him. It all goes wrong. It's like, well, what do you mean? You're into purebred stuff and you're xenophobic and violence is the answer. And she's like, no. And she's immediately trying to get herself out of the situation,
Yeah. Like, oh, he seems handsome. And he's like, yeah, except for the Jews. And she was like, oh.
And it's funny because he seems to be really insistent, right? He's like, and we'll learn later why, of course. It's like, yeah. But it's like, no, I really think you should be with me. And she's like, I don't think so. I got this thing over here to do. I have my hair to wash and a load of laundry to do. Basically, something Jay hears like every Thursday night. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so, I think I left the George Foreman grill on, or maybe it was the air fryer. Yeah,
exactly. So, yeah, so then we get the backstory with Corsall and his wife, who's the starship commander. When they got divorced, she was a starship commander. She's now a commodore. We learn at the end of this. So now he has a new girl. I don't know if it's his wife or second wife or just a girlfriend, Sela the Orion. Who'd you have playing Sela the Orion? Because whoever it is has got a sexual hold on our good buddy Corsall. So,
give me a second. Who'd you have?
I'm probably Gina Gershon with green skin, I guess, probably.
I'm going to go with, I'll go with the girl that's in the Tudors and Game of Thrones. She's kind of, I forget which chick she is. Do you know which girl I'm talking about?
I've never seen the Tudors. Like I said, I studied in college, but I haven't seen it. So I know a lot of actresses that were in Game of Thrones, but I don't know which one's also in the Tudors.
Well, they were all hot, so it doesn't matter. What's different?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So we get a little bit of that, and she's so there's a lot of domestic bliss, and there's something about Kevin didn't leave the helmet on the hover bike or blah blah blah, and you're gonna have to do extra chores now, this is the point where stuff like this, where I'm like, okay, maybe a little bit less detail on this stuff wouldn't hurt. If you're going to cut anywhere, this is the stuff I would cut. A couple of the Kevin chapters is fine.
I did like I did enjoy the fact that he's got an Orion second wife.
Absolutely, because Orions are going to play a role in his development on the thinking about what else going on here and why and how the solution can be reached and what some of the potential pitfalls of knowledge about this getting out could be, right? That's very important. So,
and the Orion race or a culture from the original show that I think always kind of intrigued everybody, but we really didn't learn anything about them.
Yeah, no, other than we didn't ever even see one except for the slave girl, right? We see 2 Orion slave girls, green girls in tight-fitting clothes. We do meet them in, strangely enough, I don't think we meet them in any other series until the modern incarnations of Star Trek. Even Enterprise had some. Star Trek Enterprise in the early 2000s had a couple episodes with Orion. The Big Show plays an Orion in an episode.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. So picture him. Imagine how much money they had to spend on green paint for that guy, right? He's got a lot of surface area.
Yeah, you're getting the mixed paint, trying to save a few bucks because he's a big dude. But yeah, they're not part of the Federation, but they interact with the Federation all the time.
Yeah.
They're sort of, riding, playing both sides on the borders.
Yep.
They're some sketchy, human trafficking for one, smuggling for another.
Well, I mean, if you think human trafficking is sketchy, I guess. But yeah, sure, yeah.
That's true. I guess I'm putting my 21st century values on them.
Sure, that's fair. All right, so then at the end of this chapter, he's talking about, well, we need help if we were going to have kids someday. Me and Sela would have to have some help. And oh, by the way, that reminds me, mixed race kids. I wonder so Corsall, not a doctor, kind of comes up with this thing, and then Spock and McCoy hear about this, and they're like, oh no, they learn that this disease is mutating, especially in the mixed race children of the different colonists on Nissus, right? So the mixed race children is where the mutations happen and then they kill you. So we're up to stealth Omicron IDIC epidemic, I think now. But yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what you think about this, but to me, I'm not buying it. I'm not. It's because I think the book is trying to say, oh no, what if it's the fact that, and it's the whole premise of Star Trek is that you meet different cultures and interact with them, and for the most part, it's a good thing. And what if, in fact, everybody needs to, shut their doors and wall up their yard and all this stuff?
Well, it isn't.
I don't think there's an answer to that. I don't think there's even one. It doesn't even cross my mind that. So there's no stakes.
Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking. Based on the fact that that's where they're going with this, my assumption was that it's a manufactured disease, right? And it's somebody who doesn't want races mixing that creates a disease where races mixing kills people, right? That's where I thought they were going with it. If COVID taught me anything, it taught me that there are intermediary species where diseases can go to mutate. They think that COVID, for example, might have mutated in deer, for example, right? So humans pass it to deer, it mutates in deer, and then the humans get the new version of it from the deer.
And didn't we in Mary? I mean, they were trying to do some kind of something to help. But it mutated into something that instead killed.
Hold on. If I may, can I put on the Rob and Butch CineMcCollough players here for a second? It's like, you want to take a crack at it? Dun, dun, dun. Okay, yeah, sorry. That's my Dr. McCoy impression from Mary. End scene. Okay, so.
Look at you.
Look at me go. All right, so then we get more Sendet into Pina drama, which is unnecessary at this point. I think they've kind of settled this stuff. Spock, of course, now that they found out this news about mixed race people, Spock is mixed race, so he has to be like out of the game for a while. But it feels like in a situation like this where you got all this communication stuff and you're in orbit on the ship with your laboratories and they're on a planet below, it feels like you can still participate in this even if you're doing it virtually. Do they not have Zoom in the 23rd century? You know what I mean?
A little dumb too. Like, I don't think you need to be boots on the ground here.
Yeah. I get why you want to be boots on the ground. I mean, he can still contribute, is what I'm saying. So
I get why you'd be knocking boots on the ground if there's some of these people were
knocking boots. Oh, that's exactly right. So now we're Bones is.
We get some of that with the Orion wife. You know, she's like, "Hey, long day at the office."
Yeah, you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of is Karen Bay. Do you remember Karen Bay from Russia with Love? Yeah, and it's like, oh, I guess I got to go put in the work now with the girlfriend over there. Yeah, back to the coal mine. Yeah,
maybe the best line in the history.
Exactly. So then we get some nonsense about Bones is going out of the planet, and he and Spock are joshing because Spock can't go. He's like, well, rattle your bones and use your potions. Your potions kill a lot of things. They'll be good for it. And then Kirk talks to some commander, Dr. Smythe, who's like the Starfleet commander down there. I don't know what the whole point of that one was.
You couldn't have put Rattle My Bones into a Way to Eden song? Come on, give it
a try. Well, stir me up a potion and rattle my bones. You know, Dr. McCoy's gonna put on some headphones. I don't know. See, I'm no good at this. That's okay. But it's worth trying. I appreciate you keeping my whose line is it anyway muscles from atrophying. I appreciate that. So all right, so yeah, so we meet this commander, Dr. Smythe, which we get one scene with her and we're never gonna see her again. Other than she tells Kirk that Kevin, that's Corsol's son, is applying for the academy. They do this a lot in this book where Kirk and McCoy and Scotty are like, I've never trusted Klingons and I never will, right? And so we haven't gotten to Star Trek 6 yet, but they're very much Star Trek 6ing in terms of, we don't trust Klingons and stuff like that, which feels natural for where they're at this point in the series, right? So
absolutely it does.
Yeah. So and it's like, and so we learn, so not all Klingons are soldiers, right? And that's okay. Yep, and then the two Klingons, Korsal and his son Kevin, take a hovercraft up to look at a dam problem. They get caught in a snowstorm and they land, and then there's a whole problem where the ship blows up, and now they have to make a shelter, and they're going to die out there in the elements. They're going to get frostbite. They're running out of food. They're running out of firewood. That goes on for a while.
I enjoyed it though. Did you not like it?
Yeah, I mean, I did. I think if you'd have done two chapters on it instead of 3, it probably would have been okay. Is what I'm saying. Where we learned that they're heating up water and drinking water in an extra helmet and stuff like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. And then Dr. Gardens, there's a Dr. Gardens who's McCoy's replacement. We get to know her too, for no good reason other than, well, what happens when Dr. McCoy's not there? We get Dr. Gardens, and I was like, well, you're supposed to get Dr. Mabenga when McCoy's not there. Put a bookmark in that because they're going to come back to that. See, so
or give us Chapel. Don't introduce him.
That is exactly right. Why are they not giving us Chapel? Why are we doing Dr. Gardens? Exactly. And the worst part about it is at the end of it, it's like, thanks for all your work, Dr. Gardens. You're kicked to the curb. We're bringing on Mabenga instead. It's like, wow, man, thanks for all your help. Yow.
Yeah.
So she gone. That's right. So, and then we get the jam session. So Spock joins the crew for a jam session. Sarek plays the harp, and I was like, whoa, Sarek plays the harp.
Acoustic harp.
Yeah. Well, his wife's on board. And then we get a little discussion about how the dissidents are overwhelmingly male, the Vulcan ones are, and they're going to Colony 9, and there's not going to be any women there. And it's like, has nobody thought about the Pon-farr problem we're going to have? And it's like, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, no wonder he's like recruiting Tapena to come with him to Colony 9 so hard. He's got a salmon problem.
And it makes sense because, they never talk about it even amongst themselves, according to Spock. So, yeah, I mean, you're never talking about this thing, and then every 7 years, like, oh, shit, that's right.
I gotta go. That's what the acoustic Vulcan harp is for, right? Exactly. So,
give me the brand.
Yep, and then there's another mutation, and now Spock is exposed and quarantined. And we learn in the next chapter that 20 hours later, Amanda catches the plague. She has memory loss. She scratches Sarek's face. Yeah, I mean, that's like Vulcan death grip territory, right?
Yeah, that's enemy within action.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Exactly. So I imagine the lighting will be spectacular, and they'll put the lighting down low for that because it really highlights the scratched face and stuff like that. And I'm imagining Sarek in his quarters applying makeup into it and all that stuff.
But do you remember that episode though? That always drove me crazy about when they're both on the bridge at the end. The fake Kirk had the scratches on the wrong side.
I know. It's like, how did Kirk not know? I mean, it's like Shatner has had the makeup applied to him. It's like, how did you not know when they're applying it to the wrong side the next day? No, it's on the other side. It's like, I don't know. Feels like you.
Yeah. They'll never notice. They'll never notice. They will.
That's the whole thing here, Rob, is that nobody expected to watch this more than one more time, right? At some point, we'll show the rerun once, and then that's it. No one will ever see this again. That's how TV worked forever, right?
Yeah.
Certainly no one was going to watch it 100 times and know every frame of every episode. And now millions of people do that. It's like I think that if they'd have known that, they'd have been way more nervous about what they were putting on screen. But anyway.
Well, and also, you're rushing. What's the story this week? We got 6 days. It's about, but
we're gonna have to pay overtime once we go past 6.
Yeah, but that just seemed that if I'm noticing that as a kid, it feels like someone's gonna notice.
Hey, and then who's that on the microphone from engineering saying something about the girls will wear their hair down and we're going to serve ice cream? The dissidents have taken engineering for some reason. Speaking of things where nothing comes of this.
Yes.
We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that, and all of a sudden it's just going to resolve and nothing happens. And I don't know why they added that in there. It's like an idea that they go down, and then he's like, at some point, he's like, well, she's like, I gotta resolve this story, and she just forgets about this. But briefly, I'm like, go away and die. So, at least we get our Lieutenant Riley reference. So now we're back to Conscience of the King. They do make a lot of subtle references like this, is what I'm saying. T'Pina and the planet in the hospital meets Bo Deaver.
Why?
I don't
know. Talk about the wart on the beauty queen's nose.
Yes.
You got an otherwise excellent book, I think, and this person is irritating, grating. Wesley Crusher's like, just awful.
And he talks like Harcourt Fenton Mudd. Actually, it's me cargo. Yeah, it's really annoying. I wrote yet another in the long line of pirate Star Trek guest stars. So great. And so T'Pina's mom catches the disease too. So we're going to go through that with her. She's terrified that the last of her family may be about to die. And then they figure out a serum that's based on iron-based life forms.
A Butch.
Yeah.
Her mom, she's worried her mom's gonna die.
Yeah.
She's Vulcan, and this asshole's like, "Oh, so you're saying there's a chance? Yeah. I'm gonna hit on the don't do it."
Well, that's when they're most vulnerable. Is when they're worried. It's like, oh, let me give you a shoulder to cry on. Yes, exactly.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's worse than my accent. My accent was bad, and it's worse than that. I digress. So they developed a serum, and it works for iron-based life forms, which is a lot of them. Humans have iron blood. Klingons have iron blood. Vulcans and Rigelians. Actually, I think Rigelians do too. There's several races that do, and several races that don't. Some of them have copper, like Vulcans. Some have iron, like humans. And they have a serum now for the iron-based blood, so they can solve half the problem. But the problem is they can only make the serum from the blood of Klingons. And it turns out they have rescued Corsall and Kevin. They have them on board, and they're like, hey, while you're here and bleeding, we could just keep bleeding you and make more serum out of you.
You should put 2 of your kids. That's the idea. What a great idea.
Yeah. So, so then there's a lot of angst about, this. Oh, by the way, you remember Daniel Corrigan? You probably don't, but we're going to mention him again. He might not be able to have kids now. Why are we talking about this? I don't know. But they're just emphasizing that it's a whole a large cast of people that are trying to keep all these balls in the air. It's like, maybe just have fewer balls, and then you won't have to keep them all in the air at the same time.
I think that's a valid point.
Yeah. Really. So yeah, but I'm going to try and focus on the stuff that means something for the storyline that we're doing. Spock is exposed. Blah blah blah. Spock has gotten. I wrote chapter 27. All I wrote down for chapter 27 is blah blah. Spock goes into system failure! Exclamation point. Yeah, that's what the only thing we're worried about. I don't know what else happened in that chapter. It doesn't matter. Spock's sick. Spock's gonna die. And then the next chapter is the one that's really interesting because Kirk and McCoy have this whole idea. Is like, well, wait a minute. So the problem is we only have 3 Klingons. You can only make so much serum for a whole planet full of people of multiple races. And they're like, wait a minute. Why don't we just have why can't we just have some Klingons come over? We can call the Klingons for help. Corsall, you can call the Klingons and ask them for help. And Corsall's like, no. He's like, what do you mean no? And then he has a perfectly good rationale for it. And it's, I think, a really interesting discussion. The idea is we can't let the Klingon Empire find out about this plague. Because if they find out there's a disease that everybody else is immune to, except, and you can only make the cure from Klingons, they're going to use that against us, right?
Logical, flawlessly logical.
And more to the point, that's exactly what I was thinking. But then he makes another point, which is the other thing is when humans find out that only the blood of Klingons can save them, then suddenly they're like, we got to go kill us some Klingons so we can have some Klingon blood. We'll just enslave them, make blood slaves out of them, we'll drain them dry, and we'll, and so, yeah, I mean, it's bad on both sides is what we're saying, right?
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah,
really did.
Yeah, and I think so. I found that chapter really interesting. The whole discussion about how we really can't let our enemies know about this, but somebody was apparently listening.
And some kind of tease earlier in the book about someone wanting to profit off this.
Yeah, it's that a-hole Orion guy, Borth. Yeah, and he's going to come back and try and profit off it, as it turns out. So, so then we get this whole thing about McCoy and M'Benga working to save Spock. He's bleeding out in all these different places, and they can stop it, but it involves this kind of Vulcan pressure point thing. M'Benga knows about it because he's been studying there, and he can teach McCoy. And they save Spock, reduces the bleeding risk. But the problem is there's way too many Vulcans that need this, and way too few people that know how to do it. So they're going to lose people before they can save them because all of them are doing it's something ungulant, something or other. Is bleeding or what they call. I don't know what that means, but they're all the Vulcans are suffering from it from this new strain, and so there's gonna be deaths because we just can't save them all, and that's why it's very important that we get this cure.
There's actually a lot of death in this book. I mean, it does a number on this colony.
It's a body count. There's a body count for sure, and so then. They find out, hey, Tapina, you've been in this hospital a long time. Why have you not gotten sick? She's like, well, I don't know. So they analyze her blood. And she's like, well, there's this one thing in here that's kind of like the Klingon thing that makes them immune, except for it's for copper blood.
Well, I did this part because, they've got this, and the author's gone to great lengths to say that this happens at this time and this happens in the train. Like, really, you can set your watch to it? I mean, it's that. Like, oh, you're 3 hours past when you should have been sick.
Well, I think if you're going to say what's a weakness of Star Trek in general, all the series is that they often do that. The warp core is going to blow in 15 minutes, and then we get done 11, 10. How did you know 15 minutes ago it's going to be exactly 15 minutes? Is that not a rough estimate? Why are we doing 10-second countdown now? So, I mean, Trek always does that. It's the artificial countdown thing. That's the reason why we have Corbomite maneuver so low on our aggregate list. It's because Corbomite maneuver has 3 different countdowns. 3!
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. It's killing me. That's all you Corbomite maneuver fans out there as fans can stick it. You're wrong. Too many countdowns.
Yeah, it takes more than the Hate Kool-Aid ending to save that dog.
Yes. So turns out that they figure out, well, the reason Share Blood works is because she's half Romulan. Duh, duh, duh. she's the only Romulan we see in this story. They never think of reaching out to the Romulans because it turns out they can just give her the thing that they gave to Spock to give blood for Sarek's thing in Journey to Babel, and so she can generate a whole lot of blood with this, especially since she's fully Vulcan, and Vulcans are very close to Rigelians, as you know, and so she's they're just like pumping her full of this stuff, and she's churning out blood donations, and they're making serum left and right and stuff like that, which is great. Sendat, of course, then reaches out and he's like, "You really got to come live with me. I'm gonna die if you don't, because I'm a salmon swimming upstream." And she's like, "Oh yeah, well, you know, wait till he finds out I'm not. Wait till he finds out I'm not a real purebred Vulcan." And I wrote in the parentheses, "Aren't they genetically identical?" But here's the thing. You know who knows they're genetically identical is Diane Duane knows they're genetically identical, but I don't think Jean Lorrah knows they're genetically identical, and that's okay. We just know they're an offshoot, right? But it's like they're only a couple thousand years apart, so they can't be that genetically different.
They should be pretty close, if not identical. They're close.
But that's okay, right? I mean, she talks about. Jean Lorrah gives a little tiny bit of backstory of the Romulans and says, well, actually the Klingons met up with them a long time before the humans ever met up with them. And that's why they immediately developed a trade relationship. And I was like, so that's a little bit different than, we've kind of marinated in the Romulans for a while. And she, unbeknownst to Diane Duane developing all of this Romulan backstory, she's just kind of randomly throwing some backstory for the Romulans that does not agree with Diane Duane's backstory, right? And that happens because you're writing two novels separately and you're not comparing notes. So
yeah, and I still liked it.
Yeah, I can forgive that, right? Because it's like Jay is often saying, "Don't these guys have a single like writer's room or whatever?" And the answer is the novelists sure don't, and that's why. Yeah, so and that's okay. So let's see. So now we have Corsola and Sons. They're on break from giving blood donations. Kirk has a talk with Kevin. He says, hey, if you read some of the Canterbury Tales, I'll have Mr. Scott give you a tour of the engine room. And Scotty's like, give a Klingon a tour of the engine room? Well, he's like, Scotty's like, all right, Captain, whatever you say.
What's next? Are you going to give Khan the technical manuals? Come on. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. So, Sela visits. She's been inoculated, and that's when I wrote Orion sounds kind of like Omicron, doesn't it? They both start with O and stuff. It doesn't matter. Omicron that's so last year, I know, but it's fine. So that's when Borth shows up and says, "Hey, by the way, Corcel, I'm going to sell this virus to the nearest bidder, and if it's the Klingons, cool. If it's the Romulans, cool. I'm going to make some money. We're going to make it rain. I'll be buying the Crystal for all my friends." The bar. We're going to make Orion Hurricanes, which you don't know about because you haven't seen the new Star Trek episode.
Hands though.
Didn't you say you watched Lower Decks a little bit?
Yeah.
This week's episode is the crossover with Lower Decks.
I bet that's going to be fun.
It is kind of fun, and they at the end of the episode they're drinking Orion Hurricanes. So if I can find a recipe, we're drinking Orion Hurricanes this weekend. I'm just saying.
I told you about the year I tried to make Hurricanes. It was like 2010.
Yeah.
And I made one accidentally because I ran out of some of the, because Hurricanes are all rum.
There's a lot of stuff in them, yeah.
One rum, and then fruit juice and grenadine, basically.
Yep.
And
I got all that.
And I ran out of some of that stuff, and so when I was compensating with the ingredients, I had this beautiful red drink that tasted like cold chicken.
Well, that's delightful.
It was awesome. It was good, but it tasted like, cold chicken. And I wish to God I could replicate that. It was such a bizarre, because it was a red, good-looking, fruity drink that tasted like poultry.
It feels like you're doing it wrong if it tastes like raw, cold poultry. Well, you didn't say raw. You just said chicken, cold chicken.
Cold, yeah.
Not cold, raw chicken. That's different. Those are two different things.
You get the 8-piece fried chicken at Safeway.
Yeah.
You eat 4 pieces, you put it in the fridge.
Yep.
And then you blend it into a drink. That's what it was.
And you put an umbrella in it. Be classy. Put an umbrella in that chicken drink.
It did not taste reminiscent of chicken. It tasted exactly like chicken. It was the strangest thing, and I wish I could.
Makes you wonder whether that glass got washed since last time you had chicken juice for dinner, I guess. All right. So listen.
I was old mine.
So listen, Scotty's about to give that tour of engineering, and then all of a sudden there's an emergency at the dam. So this is where the story's going to take a hard left turn. They're kind of getting on top of the disease now, but because so many people have been sick, that whole dam thing got pushed to the sidelines, and now there's this huge ice flow that's building up in it. And Scotty's like going up there to take a look at it. He goes up there and says, "Well, we're going to have to cut some fissures in there." And oh no, there it goes. I guess we're beaming out, and the flood's going to happen now. And now the story switches a little bit, and I don't know if this is all necessary or whatever, but this is where Topina and Bo Deaver fall in love, I guess.
It felt someone needed to. This is where she needed an editor. You didn't need this. Number one, I was like, really, the Enterprise can't vaporize that water or some. I mean, it feels like something like that they could have done.
The main phasers, right? They get hot, right?
Yeah, but it's like, why is this happening? And more importantly, why is this Bo asshole in this? So I didn't like this.
Yeah, I wrote Bo Deaver. Why was he back yet? Well, we do get to see Sarek swimming, so that's good. He's flying a ship. He's swimming with Spock. They're rescuing, and then Sarek at some point looks around and says, "I'm looking at IDIC in action. This is pretty cool, and good for them." So So a problem at a place where a lot of people live together is caused by all that. But that's, I guess, the message from this whole story, right? Is that, well, people of different backgrounds living together can be the cause of problems. But it's also the solution to those problems, and you get more benefits besides that. So, yeah, it's not all great, but overall, the benefits outweigh the detriments. Right? And that's the thing. Can't we all just get along, as Rodney King once said? Rodney King was a Lemnorian, by the way, if you're wondering. So, wow. Woo! Crickets. All right. I'll be here all week. Thank you. Tip the waitresses. It's great. And that's when Topina and Bo Deaver, I keep wanting to call him Beaver, right? Maybe he was...
He wants to put Beaver in.
I think he should have been played by Jerry Mathers. I was wrong. It's Jerry Mathers. So
do you remember Kill Bill?
Yes, I do.
My Buck, and I liked it. I feel like he would have some kind of college when he was a whiz kid at MIT or wherever. He would have been like, "My name is Deaver and I like Beaver," something like that. I feel like that would.
Yeah.
Kind of his he's.
Well, just as well they didn't go there. But yeah, sure. All right, so let's see. So now, chapter 35. Why are we meeting some woman named Miss Nordland whose back hurts? I don't know either, but it's fine. So we get a little bit of, Miss Nordland, you can't pick that thing up because her back hurts. Okay, that's great. So they save Deaver and Topina. It feels like a meet-cute chapter between the two of them, honestly. Deaver knows about the Klingon-Romulan alliance. And I was like, do we know about the Klingon-Romulan alliance yet? We don't learn about that until Enterprise incident, but it turns out that when that episode happened, at some point Spock's like, intelligence says Vulcan or Klingons and Romulans are exchanging technology, so they have heard about it, and he just doesn't announce it until then, right? So they do treat it like it's a bit of a secret at this point. So that's kind of cool because they're putting it in the timeline, right? It's like, why does he know about it? He's like, well, I'm part of Orion, and I got Orion contacts on Orion's no thing. So, that whole thing. And then, Topina's reunited with her mom. They're back. I love how as soon as she's rescued, they had to poke a hole in her vein so she wouldn't have a stroke because they'd pumped her full of those drugs, and then they can't bleed her out because she's in a flood. So Deaver sticks her with a knife so that she'll bleed some. And then as soon as she's out of the water, she's not even dried off. And they're like, all right, back to the blood thinners. We're going to, and then as soon as she's doing with the blood thinners, we got enough of that back. So now you're mopping the lab. I mean, they work her to death in this movie. It's a movie, a novel. You know what I'm saying? So then we get you know, then we get some nonsense about how Sorrel, who's one of the Vulcan healers, he proposes to Pina's adoptive mom. It only seems logical, he says.
Right, he's a widower. She's a widow.
Yeah, it seems logical, right? It's like we're two older people in need of a companion, and so we can be each other's companion.
But did you like how he did the proposal? He's like, hey, you want to go to Taco Bell for some Mexican eating, or maybe Dick's? We could, that's how Vulcans flaunt clout. Am I right, Butch?
That's exactly right. Man, we could go for a bag of dicks. That's right. So now, of course, Corsell is reading Chaucer. Do we need and we get this whole thing about how in the Canterbury Tales is essentially the IDIC story. It's like a bunch of people from a bunch of different backgrounds all going to do the same thing and blah blah blah. I'm sure if I was an English major like our good buddy Jim Perry, that would have meant more to me. I'm sure.
I was an English major, and I don't think I ever read the Canterbury Tales.
So in my senior year of high school, we had this great assignment where you could either do like one lame assignment, or you could write an introductory chapter for another character in the Canterbury Tales.
Oh, okay.
Which was so much fun. We did 4 of them. I can remember some of them. We did a televangelist, we did a presidential candidate, and we did a MTV VJ. Who were and I don't remember what the fourth. It might have just been the 3, but those are the 3 I remember. And we did it. You're supposed to do it in iambic pentameter. We asked if we could do it in iambic heptameter instead, and he said yes. We said we're doing 3 of them. So is that good? Yeah. So I thought that was fun. It's like there was a televangelist, a most repentant man who, on his quest to meet his God, has joined this caravan or something. I can't remember. It's whatever. It doesn't matter.
Pretty awesome.
I still remember that. I wrote that 35 years ago. So yeah, I still remember that. That's something I wish I had. That and the damn restaurant list. If we had those still, in the top 50 humans who ever lived list, that's like unearthed arcana. I mean, that's like archaeological. That's like the Ark of the Covenant shit. Like that is. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we could do one now, and we should, but it wouldn't be quite the same.
It just wouldn't be the same. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, so now we're really wrapping this stuff up, right? They're going to get married. Corsell's reading Chaucer. The Klingons show up, and they're like, it's the Star Blaster, and they show up, and they're like, oh shit, and they're like, yeah. So we learned a couple things about the Klingons. First, they're going to help. We've already been lining up to volunteer for this. People donating blood right now to help your cause here. 2, and we learned that the disease that is this IDIC epidemic is a strain of what they call imperial something or other, right? Imperial plague, right? It's a Klingon disease, right? So I don't know if they feel guilty about it, or they don't need to learn about it. They know about this disease. So the whole idea, we can't let them know about it. They already know about it. So.
But that kind of felt like a big surprise reveal of something that we had heard nothing about ever.
Yeah, exactly. It comes out of nowhere. But it is interesting to have. Yeah, so Kevin's going to be in Starfleet. Romulans and Klingons living together. Mass hysteria. I wrote so. And then the last thing is Kirk pulls some strings and gets M'Benga assigned to the Enterprise, and that's about where we leave off. And I think that I like that little addition, and that's how M'Benga gets on the Enterprise. And which is great, because that otherwise how else would they know to slap Spock in the face when he needs to heal, right? So, all right. So, final thoughts. What do you think about this thing?
So, when we describe it, a lot of it is stupid. There's a lot that gets tried, and there's a lot of swing and miss. So it's kind of a little bit of a Dave Kingman book here. You got some stuff you throw at the wall, it slides down, and now you have to clean it up. But some of it was, there was interesting ideas. I thought there was interesting characters. I liked this book. It felt like a light, breezy episode of Star Trek. And it felt, there's nothing worse than a Star Trek episode or book that doesn't feel like Star Trek.
Yeah.
This felt like Star Trek.
It did. I think the disease stuff really kind of is reminiscent of a few times when that happens, and so it was nice to kind of get there. Yeah, so I thought it too. I think we adequately covered some of the things that were flaws of characters that didn't need to be there, some characters that really didn't need to be there. But we also highlighted some of the stuff that was like meaty things to think about, which is good, right? It's like
I thought, and the other thing is, I'm a sucker for callbacks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Love that. And so I really enjoyed this episode, or I'm calling it an episode.
It's an episode.
So
damn right.
I thought it was a fun book. I enjoyed it.
All right. So if we were going to put it in your rankings, where do you got it?
So this is our 11th book, right?
Yeah, this is 11. That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So I have at the bottom Double at 11.
Double.
Klingon Gambit 10.
Yep.
Doctor's Orders at 9.
Yep.
And really, those 3 books I don't need to read again.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Yep.
But then we see an uptick. So I have Deep Domain at 8, and I enjoyed Deep Domain.
Yep.
Web of the Romulans I had at 7.
Yep.
Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, for all its flaws, still is a wonderful story, and I have it at 6.
Yep.
Corona at 5.
Yep.
3-Minute Universe at 4.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I have My Enemy, My Ally at 3, which means I her at 2.
Ooh. And then Romulan Way, of course, at 1, yes.
The Romulan Way by a country mile.
Yes. All right, so my list is similar. I go Klingon Gambit at 11, Doctor's Orders at 10. I have Corona unfairly. I think the novels for me get better there, right? Okay. Corona at 9. And that's the first one we did, and I feel like if we were to have done them in a different order, I might not have it that low, because it was an interesting idea, and I've really forgotten most of the novel except for the plot line, which was an interesting sci-fi idea. So
I thought you had Double at 9.
I have Double at a couple spots up is where I have it.
Oh.
According to, so I have 3-Minute Universe at 8, and then Double at 7.
Okay.
Which is weird. And then I have Deep Domain at 6 because this falls, IDIC Epidemic falls at 5 on my list. And then I have Star Trek II, which again, the novel isn't as good as the movie, but the movie is so good and the story is so good. I can't put it higher than that because it's the novel and not the movie. But there it is. And then the 3 Romulan ones above it. Web of the Romulans at 3, Romulan Way at 2, and I have My Name and My Ally at 1. So there's no right or wrong on this stuff. Right? Exactly.
As a top 5 of 11, right? So we're calling this so far on the list upper echelon.
Yes. I think we can definitely agree with that. So it is time to pull out the dice. We're going to roll a twofer tonight because I'm going to be on vacation for a week and a half, and I'm going to need to take 2 novels with me where I'm going. So we're going to roll 2 books, right? So I'm going to go, I have 2 20s and 2 10s right here. I happen to have 2 20s and 2 10s in my pocket, Lloyd. And we're going to do it. All right. And I have my list right here. So the blue and the gray will go together on the blue and the gray. So pink and blue and red and gray. So there we go. So I'll roll them and we'll see what we get. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So the pink and the blue is in the 20s. It's 24. So 24 is up next. 24 is Killing Time.
Okay.
Killing Time at 24 is the next one up.
Isn't that a Klingon book?
Romulan. It's Romulan. Oh. If I remember correctly, when we did our Strange New Worlds podcast on Tomorrow, we talked about how it's a Romulan time travel screwing with Earth's past to try and do so that they kind of borrowed that idea from that. And then the next one is 27. So 24 and 27. 24 is Killing Time. 27 is Mind Shadow. Killing Time and Mind Shadow.
Okay, cool.
Are your next 2 novels. So stay tuned. Go forth, do good reading. Don't get too far ahead. We'll try to do the next episode as soon as we finish reading the book.
Yeah.
So it's fresh in our memories.
And summer is when we, or at least I'll speak for myself, I do way more reading in the summer than any other time of the year. So.
Yep. So, all right. So that sounds great. So thanks again, Rob, for hanging out late with me. And thank you for listening along, constant reader. We will see you next time here on Is That a Trek in Your Pocket? ?
Yeah.